What up, everyone? I am the comic outlaw, the man with a plan, Jack Slater, and I'm coming through with Magnus. And we've been doing our little talks here and there, and we're going to be discussing an open forum on Superman. He's decided to represent Supes. I decided to represent Team Luthor.
Yes.
So we're going to go at it. A little open forum on Superman.
Yeah.
Magnus, you had a theory you wanted to share with the audience?
Yeah, and most of it is not a theory as much as fact but it's the more specifics. So what we know about Kryptonians is, they all sort of get superpowers when influenced by yellow sun or blue sun. This isn't just the humanoid Kryptonians, but also like Krypto the Superdog. This happens.
Well, yeah, because they're from the same planet.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because their solar system is super weird. So they have a giant red star that just spews out radiation.
Okay, for our fans that don't know what a red sun is a form.
It's a super
Yes, it's
giant
like
star.
the point right where, like, it's kind of like the midpoint where the sun starts to die.
Yeah,
And
well,
it turns red with
some
them.
stars actually begin that way. What it is as a star starts to lose mass or doesn't have enough mass to begin with, it actually can't contain itself and it expands. Like our star will eventually become a red
Yes.
star.
About 10,000 years.
And it will actually eventually the sun will reach the Earth. That's how big they get.
Well, another thing that I heard about Kryptonian or Krypton too is the gravity was actually heavier there.
Yeah, and it is obscenely heavy. Like it's physics defying heavy because some say it's up to 8,000 times heavier. Some say it's 1,000. But like if it does go up to 8,000 times Earth gravity, it should potentially be its own star. Like that's a lot of gravity to push on it. So something is up with Superman's
I think they
solar
actually
system.
explained that in Superboy.
How do they explain
One of
it?
the first things they explained that, well, they didn't explain the gravity thing, but since your gravity was heavier, you get this. And since you were adapted to this, you get this. And it was a very simplified version of it.
Yeah.
But it was like one of the first comics, so.
Yeah.
You know.
And I love that you mentioned the adaptation because I think that's where the Kryptonian beings from the planet Krypton get their base power from because they have this star that shoots out so much radiation it would kill anything. So the life that came from there had to adapt to it, and they did that by being able to absorb it to the point where when it harmed them.
Yeah, but we have to take Kryptonian powers with a grain of salt, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, if we could talk about Superman now or Superman in the 50s.
Yeah.
When he was able to move a chain of planets, which is, there's a little chain attached to it.
Yeah.
When he had the power or the intelligence of 9 Einsteins.
Yeah.
Like his powers really got out of whack.
Well, not only that, like he was an artist. Like he could use his telescopic vision to see from full solar systems far away, and he's painting alien life and flora and fauna.
Yeah, and he has microscopic vision.
Yeah.
He has all kinds of visions,
Yeah, and the Kryptonian beings have an adaptation of absorbing radiation.
Solar radiation. It has to be the yellow sun, though.
It could also. It depends on how you look at it, because with Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, Superman got nuked by the Russians, and he became all thin.
But he still absorbed the life from plants.
Yeah, he absorbed the radiation from the nuke, which weakened him. When he crashed on the planet, he absorbed the solar energy that was stored into plants, which helped revitalize them.
Yeah, but as much as we all love Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, and I love it too, you have to take it with a grain of salt, especially when you read the next series. The one right after that, and the other one after that.
I mean, you don't actually have to read it.
You don't actually have to read it, but you can read it to understand what I'm saying. Well, you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, well, Golden Age Superman, he was nuked. And, he wasn't nuked. He was present at a nuking. And he wasn't affected at all.
That's kind of what I'm saying, though.
Like, it didn't help him.
The Golden Age and Silver Age, or the Golden Age mostly, they did some pretty outrageous things. We've all, one of the popular things they talk about is the baby in the microwave. they had a Kryptonian baby at one point. He got stuck in the microwave and he lived.
Yes, which is not the best thing to show kids.
So like let's go more realistic. Let's just say now Superman has what? Strength, flight, vulnerability or invulnerability, super breath, of course.
He has a biogenerated force field. That's why his clothes doesn't get damaged.
Yeah.
When he gets hurt.
Yeah, they actually talked about that in the Death of Superman. He has a new ability though.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Johns actually made it fascinating. It's sort of like a concentrated like. You know the Human Torch, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know the Human Torch can do like a move that he calls Supernova.
Yeah.
Where he could do all of his power in one big burst.
Yeah.
Well, evidently, Superman can do that now.
Okay.
Where he does this one huge, like, Kamehameha, like, wham!
Yeah.
But he becomes human for like a day.
It makes sense because he's effectively a solar battery that and if he lets all that energy out, he has to recharge it.
Well, I thought that was cool that Jeff Johns, and you know Jeff Johns is legit out there. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a nice little add-in.
Yeah.
And it made sense. It gave him a merit and a flaw. Because usually Superman gets powers and there's no flaw to it.
Yeah.
That's why I like Superman Blue. Did we discuss Superman Blue before?
I think barely in passing on one of our previous episodes. We quickly mentioned Blue and Red.
Well,
yeah.
Red became an offshoot, but originally it started with Superman Blue. Mm-hmm. It was him, his powers had gotten it changed too much, that he became a being of pure energy because of the sun.
Yeah.
And he had to wear a containment suit, and he did like hard light things, but he was basically Superman. He's just, And the reason I like the comic books, some people didn't, is that when he was Clark, he was Clark. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was cool. He was Clark. He never stubbed his toe before, which I found funny.
Yeah.
He told Lois, like, what's wrong with me? My stomach, he never felt like the overrush of hunger.
Yeah, because he utilizes the energy just like a plant, the solar energy that he absorbs.
Yeah.
And he does eat, but he only needs to eat a little, and I think he needs to drink normal like the person.
Later on, he doesn't have to eat at all.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was cool that it made him human. Mm-hmm. And then he had the powers, of course, but I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And most fans didn't.
Yeah.
And I understand they like their Superman one way.
Yeah.
I would hate it if Batman suddenly became the social justice warrior in the 50s, Mm-hmm. It would annoy the shit out of me, so I understand how certain people... But I enjoyed the change.
Yeah.
Because he was still Superman. Mm-hmm. He was still Clark Kent.
Yeah.
But he was understanding what it was to be human for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think that was cool because Clark is always complaining that he doesn't understand what it is to be human. He wants to be human, and he sort of got his wish in a very messed up way. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
He got what he wanted, but yet he didn't get what he wanted. You know what I mean? And I thought that was awesome. And then he split off into a Superman Red. They did this whole series. They
doubled down on it.
Yeah, well, Superman Blue became a pussy, and Superman Red became an asshole. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah,
I said it. You guys know my show is laced with profanity. All right, no, Superman Blue became more of the Clark Kent persona. Mm-hmm. You've seen Superman 3, right?
Been a long time.
The one with basically when the Supermen separate, mm-hmm. and one's Clark and one's kind of a prick.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Except the red one wasn't evil.
Yeah.
He still did his thing, but he was more headstrong, driven, let's do this now. I'll knock him out, and the other Superman was more reserved, and they were just two halves of the same coin.
Yeah.
Which I thought sucked. It ruined the character.
Yeah.
And then they combined him, he became Superman. Superman, you guys know now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought the Superman Blue series was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison did that run. He also brought in the Aquaman with the hook.
Yeah.
And Kyle Reiner. I liked that Justice League personally.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Aquaman, and people talk shit about it, but look who Aquaman is based on now. He's basically the Aquaman from the Peter David run.
Yeah. And
the Grant Morrison run is just that he doesn't have the hook.
Yeah.
But it's just basically the same guy.
And a lot of times
they give him tattoos for the armor.
since we're getting sidetracked with Aquaman, but I guess might as well mention that it seems like when he gets a big change, that's when actually like it's really cool. When he first got the hook, that was cool. When he got that Celtic magic water hand, that was cool.
Well, this is all relevant to Superman because it's all in the same era.
Yeah.
Because people talk a lot of crap about the 90s or the late 2000s, but he came up with some interventions that people talk crap about, but yet they're still here.
Yeah. But going back to talking about the Kryptonian solar system.
Oof.
So, with what I'm saying with my what I theorize is that of course that the Kryptonians created this, not created, but end up having these adaptations to absorb solar energy. Now, interesting thing about like with kryptonite, it's supposed to be very rare.
They say that, yes.
Yes, but in most interpretations, when you see the planet Krypton at the point where it explodes, it does more often than not something interesting. It implodes, then it explodes, and that implosion is very important. So there is an issue of Action Comics. Really wish I could find it again, so I could tell you what number it is. But it's where Superman is fighting another Kryptonian, and this Kryptonian wants to attack another planet.
Was it Zod?
I don't think it was Zod. I think it was just another random Kryptonian.
They
pop
Zod
up
fan.
here and there.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah. But he can't directly attack that planet because that solar system that planet's in has a red star.
Ooh.
So he's on an asteroid just pelting rocks at this planet. And Superman's like, it's going to take too long fighting this guy because we're equally matched. We're both Kryptonians. We're both super dudes. I have to outsmart him. And so Superman realizes that this Kryptonian is on, the asteroid he's on, is from the solar system of Krypton. And so Superman's like, I have an idea. Superman goes on another asteroid and just starts pelting a few rocks at this Kryptonian. And so the Kryptonian, he uses telescopic vision, see Superman, just start throwing a few rocks at him. And Superman grabs 2 rocks on the asteroid he's on, that's uranium. He smashes them together and creates a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
And his Golden Age Superman, it doesn't hurt him at all. But this Kryptonian sees it, it's like, oh, if I do that and I throw it at that planet, I can do major damage. So this Kryptonian grabs the 2 rocks from the asteroid he's on that's from Krypton, slams them together, and it created kryptonite. So part of the implosion process of Krypton could have created the kryptonite. And you might ask, why doesn't that happen in other solar systems? Now, it wasn't specified if this asteroid was a chunk of Krypton or if it was just from the solar system.
Well, there have been people that are able to duplicate it.
Yes.
Metamorpho, for example, since kryptonite is on Earth, he's able to attune himself to any element that's here.
Yeah.
And since it's already here, he was able to mimic it. Kyle Reitner was actually able to mimic the radiation of kryptonite with his ring.
Yeah. And as an interesting note, I think it is actually Radioactive Man from Marvel. The villain, even though he's called Radioactive Man, his powers won't cause cancer or anything like that. It's not that kind of radiation. And he just thought it was just some weird energy that's just nothing. But in Avengers vs. JLA, Radioactive Man found out that his powers are actually kryptonite radiation.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so he was able to just defeat Superman no problem. It's just like, oh, I didn't realize this was a special kind of radiation. It just means nothing in our universe.
There was a character in Superman, Dr. Light, Dr. Luminous. Well, he was more the G-rated version of Dr. Light. I liked how they used Red Sun technology. Captain Atom actually did the same thing when he combated Superman in the cartoons.
Yeah.
So Superman has different weaknesses. He's not invincible.
No.
Of course, Red Sun radiation for one, kryptonite, and of course magic.
Yes, and evidently also being beaten to death, which happened with Doomsday.
Well, that happens to the best of us.
So, can be overpowered.
Well, Mongo's a prime example of that.
Oh, yeah, and he's nothing to sneeze at.
Oh, dude, I'm a big fan, dude. Well, evidently it's his son now that's... I don't know, like, it's real weird when it comes to that. He dies, he lives.
Darkseid's Omega Beams.
That's
which
true.
is an extra dimensional energy of entropy, chaos. It's its own very special thing that is bad stuff. But
Yep.
it's not magic.
Speaking of which, I need to throw on my super villain ring since we're in super villain mode.
Boom. And anyways, I believe kryptonite is compressed elements from the Kryptonian solar system that absorbed the radiation coming from this extreme red star.
Yeah.
And like it could actually just be an isotope where it's missing electrons, it might have gained electrons.
And there's different kinds too.
Yeah, and it might actually be from, depending on what element that got smashed, like if it was carbon, if it was something more nitrogen based, that might create more.
Well, yeah, actually, that's why there's different kinds.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different types.
Well, you know what? Let's get into it. I mean, we talked about...
All right, well, let's do the classic one. Let's do the main one, the Lex Luthor War, the green kryptonite. It seems to be the most common kryptonite.
Yeah, and it could just be like from regular rock if we're going with it's just compressed. It could just actually be carbon.
Yeah, so kryptonite green basically makes him weak. It makes him sick. If he's exposed to it too long, it will kill him.
Yeah. And it is letting out radiation. Like Lex Luthor would always wear a kryptonite ring.
And it ended up taking his hand.
Yeah, he got cancer.
In the comics, and then in his whole body, and then he transferred his brain into another body.
Yeah.
Comics, y'all.
I mean, it's very believable for Lex Luthor since most people know him as, the evil businessman. His roots are in being a mad scientist.
Well, the interesting thing was, I like this about the Justice League cartoon, that he got the kryptonite cancer, and then he used the power suit like Tony Stark did, and he was able to filter the kryptonite through like energy blasts and stuff like that, and it was keeping him alive.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool angle on it.
Yeah.
I'm a big Luthor fan. Like, green kryptonite is the most popular one. It's usually the one that Superman gets shot with. It's usually the first one that he deals with.
Yeah.
It's mostly the primary kryptonite, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But there are other colors.
I guess the next most common one is red kryptonite. Like, if it's not green, you also tend to see red.
Yeah, red kryptonite.
That one's
the wild card.
Harder to pin down. Did you want to explain that?
It's the wild card kryptonite. It depends on what show, what series, what you're watching. Take Smallville, for example. It turns him into a kind of a dick. Like a rebel without a cause. It makes him flip his persona.
Yeah.
I personally like in the comic books because I love the randomness. It could make him small. It could make his face blue. It could take away his powers temporarily.
Yeah.
It could give him a rat face.
Yeah.
I mean, I love red kryptonite. It's just one of those things where you just do not know what's going to happen.
It's pretty much kind of the more unstable kryptonite. Like, it itself is unstable as far as we know, but whatever the radiation that Kryptonians absorb, it makes them go crazy.
I think it responds to the solar radiation too, the yellow sun.
Yeah.
Let's see. Red, like I said, red's fun. It was really used a lot in the old days. I actually like to see a resurgence of it again because I always love a random throw.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have
blue. I want to say might pop up the most next, although that one starts becoming pretty rare.
Yeah, blue is said to give Superman powers at some point.
Yeah, that it's actually more healing property.
Yeah. It is a weak to Lazaro.
Yes.
And it's actually weak to Ultraman.
Interesting.
Ultraman is have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, that he is the Earth 3 Superman, but it's the evil world. So yeah, and he was a astronaut, I believe.
No, he was a Kryptonian that crashed here, except his powers are kind of shitty. Okay, the yellow sun makes him weak.
Okay.
So well, in the original one, it didn't do that, but in the new one, in Forever Evil,
they
kind of like downgraded him a little bit, which sucks. Yeah. He's weak to the sun, so he's always pushing the moon where his area is, and he snorts green kryptonite like cocaine.
Green kryptonite, interesting.
I'm not kidding you, dude. There's literally a picture. I wish we could bring it up right now, where he crushes kryptonite. He's all, oh, and I was like, wow, they allowed that in comics. Like,
I might be off, but I want to say when the Crime Syndicate originally appeared, that when the Crime Syndicate first went to Earth 1, that his Ultraman's powers was waning because he snorted blue kryptonite, and that he wasn't even a Kryptonian; he was an astronaut. That
They never
found out.
had snorting at that time, though. Like, he
Well,
never snorted anything.
no, well, he would crush it and he would breathe it in. He wouldn't snort it like Coke, but he would breathe it in.
No, in the comics, dude, he definitely went. I was so surprised they.
Okay, but it's green.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to say it was originally. I want to say it was originally
and snorted
blue.
it. I was like,
yeah, but he can't stay on like Earth 1 enough because he doesn't immediately know where to get kryptonite.
yeah, it's weird. Like the Superman powers are weird. Well, actually, I think Blue in the Smallville show actually neutralized Superman's powers
Okay.
for a short time. Like I said, different worlds, different continuities.
Yeah. And I wanted to say in a Batman Superman issue, Bizarro, he had this weird box that he'd open up and it was a blue kryptonite ring, but it made him super smart, which it's supposed to hurt him, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like, everything changes.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a Super Friends episode where Superman took his cape and made blue kryptonite. Bizarro was like, no, me am weak to blue.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's weird. Like I said, dude, continuity changes, stuff changes over the years.
Yeah.
Jeweled kryptonite I actually found interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It allows people psychic powers through the Phantom Zone.
I always felt like it's clear kryptonite would be more accurate because Jewel doesn't really explain what it is, you know.
Yeah, well, they also have a white kryptonite, so I didn't think they wanted to confuse it.
Yeah.
A white kryptonite kills plants, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Which, once again, if they're radioactive, anything that...
Any kind of plant it kills.
Yeah.
It absorbs. I guess it absorbs the radiation in the plants.
Yeah.
And then,
so I guess if you're going against a Swamp Thing, you know, have some of that on you.
Black kryptonite.
Which I believe first appeared in Smallville.
What, the white kryptonite?
Black.
Yes. It's supposed to give you either it brings out your dark side or it makes you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the version that Batman that Laughs did. He threw a box of black kryptonite at him and his son. They went crazy and they murdered Lois and then they murdered each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to. It sends them on a psychotic frenzy.
Yeah.
Let's see. We mentioned white, mentioned green, red, gold. We would be remiss without mentioning gold. Gold kryptonite takes away their powers instantly and in most cases permanently.
Yeah.
The rarest kryptonite.
And this is mentioning gold. I think there's a silver. I don't know what silver does. I want to say there's a silver, and then there's also a really off one. I mentioned crypto earlier in this episode, and there's like a speckled one.
I think there's an orange kryptonite that gives dogs power or pets powers.
Okay.
Because in the crypto comics, I actually remember reading about this. That the cat got superpowers from some kind of kryptonite. He was like an evil cat.
Oh, okay.
So I think it might be orange, and I that's another one that I thought was weird.
Yeah.
They've man-made kryptonites, of course.
Yeah.
Like in Superman 3, he did not have the chemical basis Richard Pryor, so he actually used the tar from cigarettes. And that's what made Superman into a dick, I guess. Cigarettes.
Yeah.
So remember, kids, kryptonite and cigarettes do not mix. Do not put kryptonite in your cigarettes.
And don't put cigarettes in your kryptonite.
Exactly.
They just don't mix either way.
Yep.
And an interesting thing about kryptonite that you wouldn't even normally think of, but it's not psychosomatic at all. It's not a mental thing. It is a physiological thing because there's one point where Harley Quinn, with the help of Bizarro and I believe Poison Ivy, was going against Superman. And Harley Quinn shot a kryptonite bullet at Superman. Superman's like, oh no! And it just shatters that it was green porcelain. And I don't know how she shot it without it breaking. But, like, she was like, oh, I was hoping it was mind over matter. You know, you thought it was kryptonite, so it would hurt you. But it didn't hurt him at all. So.
Are you familiar with the Kingdom Come run of Superman?
Yeah.
You know, where's the late future?
Mm-hmm. And, well, you know, the current age of superheroes were jerks. And
yeah,
so
at that point, Superman had actually evolved where certain kinds of kryptonite wouldn't affect him.
Interesting.
As he grew more in the sun. So even later on, kryptonite doesn't affect him. Yeah. So I thought I'd throw that out there. Now, since we've been discussing theories and this and that, you've heard my well-documented hatred of Superman.
I might have heard it once or twice.
My rants. And this is one thing that I do not understand because I would do it slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
Pretend to be a thug. I threaten to kill someone. You know the classic story. They have one kryptonite bullet. They fire it at him. Someone digs it out of his chest. I would have an Uzi full of kryptonite bullets because the idiot would just stand there and let you shoot him. That's what he does.
Yeah.
The big blue target and just hit him with the Uzi. And then I shoot him in the head enough times where even then probably the big blue asshole would come back.
I mean, but then his father would have to have a heart attack so he could go to heaven and tell him that Earth needs him so that he can then come back.
Oh, good John Kent.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually really weird. Yeah, that actually happened
yeah.
in Death of Superman.
It was a very impactful cover, if I remember. It's John in the middle of the wheat field at their farm.
Actually, you know what? I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
I thought it made sense that it was the father that pulled him back.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool. You know Superman's son, right?
Such as Superboy Prime?
No. Superboy Prime's an alternate Superman.
Okay, are we talking
They
about...
have a kid now. They've had a kid for a few years.
Okay, and so this isn't the Superboy that is Superman and Lex Luthor's clone?
No, that's Connor Kent.
Okay.
This is an actual son from Lois and Superman.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Jonathan.
Okay.
That's why, I kind of... And his powers are sort of growing, but not.
Okay.
He's an interesting character. Yeah, dude, they've done a Super Son series with Damian and him.
Yeah.
It's been on for a few years. It's pretty popular. Really cool, actually.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I just assumed that was just, the other Superboy that we were mentioning. Okay,
No,
so that
no.
is their son, because I'm
No, that's
aware
Jonathan
that
Kent, dude.
Damien and him have...
Actually, you know what? I've never been a fan of the Superman comics. I always thought they were kind of trite and boring. Like, there's certain runs I liked.
Yeah.
But
Superman's too powerful. Most of
The
the
Super
villains can't
Sons
stand
thing is cool because it gives him a new edge as a father,
Mhm.
explaining who he is, and his son's powers kind of wax and wane.
Yeah.
Explaining his mission and why he does things, and what it gave him a different dynamic that Clark didn't have.
Yeah.
I think it's the same reason people swear like Damien. It sort of humanized Batman,
Yeah.
and after 80 years, you gotta grow up. I mean,
Yeah. And you kind of need somebody who actually wants to be Batman, because Nightwing doesn't want to be Batman. Red Robin doesn't want to be Batman.
Tim actually becomes Batman in alternate reality.
Yeah.
He becomes an evil bastard too.
Okay, is this the Teen Titans story where the Teen Titans...
It crossed over into Super Sons too,
Okay.
and Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big crossover. It was interesting because I thought Tim, he was kind of an evil Batman. He wasn't evil, but he was more sinister.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm talking about Tim Drake.
Yeah.
He was the third Robin. Just explains that.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite Robins, to be honest with you. If I had a favorite Robin, it would probably be him.
Yeah, if anything, I like him as Robin. Like, I don't want him to be Batman. I don't want him to be Nightwing.
I thought he was,
Robin.
now that he's has the mantle of Red Robin,
Mhm.
I think that's cool.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm totally
Yeah.
down with that, dude.
I guess
He's
just as
dating
long as
spoilers.
he's a Robin.
Yeah, I enjoy the character, actually.
Mhm.
I came up in a time where Wally West was my Flash, Tim Drake was my Batman, Tim Drake was my Robin,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed Nightwing, and like we talked about in the Batman thing, and I enjoy more human stories, and I think Superman having this son humanizes him,
Yeah.
and having Lois Lane kind of be the mother, so she's not always off reporting, she's not the damsel in distress. It brings
Yeah.
more depth to the story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of just repeating the same old formula.
Yeah.
That's why I think the Superman run's been successful, or that run was successful.
So, and I guess this would be getting sidetracked, but since you were mentioning, the
I still have this whole thing about Zod.
half human, half Kryptonian hybrid, it's just like, do you think that would cause him to be a weaker Kryptonian because he's diluted with the DNA of Kryptonian?
I don't know. His powers actually, like I said, they sort of appear. He kind of reminds me of an early Superboy, so I don't really see him having an initial weakness.
Yeah.
And then later on in the future comics, like when Superman 1,000,000,
Mhm.
his descendants actually become Superman, and they even have more power.
Yeah.
So it might. I think the Kryptonian genes actually get stronger, maybe.
Yeah, and because interesting with like in Dragon Ball Z, the half and quarter Saiyans seem to be able to get Super Saiyan even earlier. They get more
Mm-hmm.
powerful earlier because they keep all of the pretty much the good stuff from the Saiyan side. But I don't know if you've heard about S cells.
I don't.
I think we've talked about that. Have we talked about that?
Yes, we talked about
Okay,
the
yeah,
S.
yeah. So
It's right up there with Midichlorians with me.
yeah, so I mean, which is also a Saiyan trait, but because they have the human aspect, they have more compassion, and so they end up generating more of these S cells. So, I mean, but like, I can't imagine that being for Kryptonians. I could only imagine him being
Because
for
Zod is
Kryptonian.
powerful with or without whatever. There's no S cells of
Yeah.
Kryptonians.
And well, obviously they have K cells. Come on.
Well, actually, the interesting thing about Zod is now that he's alive with his child and this chick, he actually has a legitimate grudge against the Green Lanterns.
What's his grudge?
They would not save Krypton. Krypton. They knew that it was going to explode.
That's
They
right.
made no effort whatsoever to.
Wait. Wasn't there a Green Lantern who gave an effort?
No, he was ordered not to.
Okay.
Well, it's this whole thing, and Zod gets pissed off, and he declares war on the Green Lanterns because the Green Lanterns, or the Owens, the little blue meanies,
Yeah.
were afraid that they would get too powerful, like the Saiyans were.
Yeah.
The Kryptonians and the Saiyans, are like because they discovered that the Kryptonians eventually they left that place to become pretty powerful,
Yeah. Well, there's actually Kryptonians who did leave, but like generations later, and it's for not their planet was going to blow up because they didn't enjoy that.
They have cousins. They're called Dax,
Yeah.
but their weakness is to lead.
Yeah, and also their powers are significantly more watered down because they were away from their solar system for
Yep.
generations.
Yep, and they're very xenophobic.
And so here's the big question I've always asked: Kryptonians had spacefaring technology for some time.
Yes.
Why were there not Kryptonians out in space? Why were all of them on their planet at that time?
Well, some of them had survived. They actually talked about that. It was an interesting series. I'm actually thinking about covering it. Like all these Kryptonians show up on Earth, and like it becomes this war that Superman ends up being on the losing side of.
Yeah.
So there's actually other survivors, I guess.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, and then of course there's always the bottled city of Kandor.
Yes. And then any Kryptonians in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, I really don't believe that all the Kryptonians were killed. Oh, Superman's father returned.
Yes, but that's because of
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yes, but since we're talking about notable Kryptonians, I thought we'd
Oh, yeah.
bring that up. Weird, but interesting. The way they did it was cool.
Yeah. And so, one interesting parallel that I can find with the Kryptonians and the Kree Empire from Marvel is that they're structured in houses. That they have specific, effectively, guilds that, one's military, one's science, one's commerce, and so they're all separated into these things, and they tend to stay in that with the family.
Yeah.
And also, both Kryptonians and Kree are dicks. Evidently, having houses make you a dick.
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on the people, dude. But
Well, like, most people are cool, but, like, it's just... I mean, the Kryptonians died due to arrogance, incompetence, corruption.
well, okay, I'm gonna give this. Look at the little blue meanies.
Mhm.
They don't have a house, and they're dicks.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying you have to have a
I
house
know, I'm
to
just saying-
be a dick.
But they're
And,
just
well, if
dicks.
anything, they're house green, if you think about it.
True.
Although, then again, the Green Lanterns aren't dicks. It's just their
Yeah.
bosses are.
Yeah, Guy Gardner makes a point to say that. Like Superman's always interesting. He has a cabaret of different villains.
Mhm.
I thought the animated series we were talking about this did a great job in
Oh, yeah.
boosting them. I love the redid they did on Toyman. I was very sad they didn't carry
Yeah,
that.
he had
creepy ventriloquist looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, dude.
I want to say they kept it for a while.
Livewire
Yeah.
was cool.
Yeah. And she had a pretty cool attitude, there was a and she
Lori Petty was the voice for that.
really
Yes, Tank Girl.
okay.
She's just a girl, the girl you want.
And there was even an episode, I believe, of Batman the animated series, where it had Livewire and Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy teaming up against Barbara Gordon, Batgirl.
Yeah, they got tired of Livewire shit. Supergirl.
And Angel Supergirl. I can't remember her name.
No, it was just Supergirl.
Oh, okay. It wasn't Angel Supergirl.
It's just Supergirl.
Yeah. I guess they never got into that.
No, they didn't. They never. There's been like 4 different Supergirls if you want to count all the continuity.
Okay, so there's Supergirl Prime, and the only reason I'm counting her is because issue of Batman Superman when was it Batman? He was stuck in the Source Wall. And so all the Supergirls went to break him out, and they all kind of slam into it. And Supergirl Prime was there for some odd reason. Like, it did not make any sense, and, like, that's the only time you see her. Then there's Angel Supergirl. There's his cousin Supergirl.
There's the alien Supergirl that was around for Death of Superman.
Yes. And then there is the Supergirl that is Superman and Lois Lane's daughter from the future.
Power Girl.
Gone into the... No, not Power Girl. This is a different one. She has black hair.
Oh, well, this one's from... Well, Power Girl shows the same exact origin then.
Well, Power Girl's from a different dimension that is more based on the future.
Earth 2.
Yeah. But this Supergirl is actually from the future, come to the past to help her father.
Okay, let's not open the Supergirl bag of cats. We're going to be here for an hour, dude. Supergirl's origin is so convoluted.
Yes. And you can also kind of count somewhat more of like the Superman family, like Steel. He's part of the Superman family.
Yes,
and then he has... Is it a daughter or a niece? That's also...
Niece.
Yeah, that also is the same.
Yeah, she develops a badass suit.
Yeah.
And then if we're going to do that, dude, we might as well talk about Connor, Superboy, the cartoon. They just recently did a Reign of Superman cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did a fair job in revamping that.
Yeah. So, and Connor's original powers, was he around in the 80s, or did he start in the 90s?
He started in the Death of Superman, dude. That was around
the 90s. So that'd be the 90s. His powers were originally explained as being physically psychic. Like
a telekinesis field instead of a Kryptonian.
Yeah.
But the thing was that he had the cells. It just took longer for them to mature.
Yes, because he eventually did develop heat vision.
Yes.
And there was... so I was trying to mention this issue of Teen Titans, where the Teen Titans went in the future to help the legions of superheroes. They went back in the past, but they didn't go far enough. They met their future selves. And so it was where Tim Drake was Batman and he used the gun. Mm. But an interesting thing is they had Connor's Superboy, where he was able to create telekinetic force fields, just like invisible force fields, so just like an invisible woman can. Mm. And so that it kind of went back to how his powers originally worked. So I was talking about half human, half Kryptonian hybrids. Like, his powers developed differently, and he actually got a more of an array of powers because of it.
We had this weird power too, where he could take anything apart. That power kind of got lost in the shuffle.
I mean, yeah, unless one of the writers read that and like remembers it.
Well, then there was Cyborg Superman. There was the Eradicator, Bizarro, of course.
Yes, which there were two Bizarros. There was the original Bizarro that was a Bizarro Superboy. It was a scientist that I think he was trying to do good by recreating Superman.
Yeah, in the Silver Age, he ends up getting his own world.
Yeah.
There's Bizarro everyone there.
Yeah. But Lex Luthor bought the plans for the machine and was trying to perfect it. And so then he cloned Superman, because the original Bizarro melted? He destabilized and died.
Like I said, it depends on what you're reading. He lived all the way to post-crisis, and then it all changed.
Okay.
Like in Forever Evil, the whole series where the villains take over and Lex Luthor kind of has to save the day. Mm. he has a clone of Superman already made, and it's all twisted and weird.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what you're reading. But Bizarro is one of those characters that seems to pop up.
Yeah. And
even in the animated series, it was different, his origin and stuff.
yeah. And Bizarro is not weak. I mean, it is stated, it is suggested he's stronger and faster than Superman, but some of that is that he doesn't have a mental limit because of the mental issues that he has.
Yes, and then his powers are weird too. He does frost vision, like instead of heat vision, he does frost and heat breath. He's an interesting character. See, if we're talking about alternate Superman, I like to talk about a villain, the Parasite.
Okay.
I think he's one of those underused characters, and I thought they did really well in using him in the cartoon because he was able to mimic people's powers. I thought they used him more effectively then. I think he's a very effective Superman villain.
Yeah.
But of course, in the wide world of Superman, there's so many different villains. I mean, we've touched on quite a few actually.
Yeah.
From Mongol all the way down, Zod, the Eradicator. But yes, we've been touching here and there on Superman. Of course, Lex Luthor, the main man himself.
Yeah, I think we might eventually want to make just Superman villains. We did.
We actually should, yes.
Yeah, we did that with Spider-Man. We did that with Batman. We might eventually want to do it for Superman.
Yep, like I said, this is our open discussion. People, if you like it, drop us a little letter, and we'll end up doing it.
Yeah.
So you have anything else you want to add about Superman?
Actually, yeah, because you mentioned that you're not a Superman fan. I'm actually not that big of a Superman fan, and in one sense, that I'm not a fan of Superman comics, and I feel the same way with Wonder Woman, that I'm not a fan of Wonder Woman comics, because they're too good. More often than not, their villains fall short, and that's why, to me, they work amazing in the Justice League, because what problem they're dealing with, like, even just the two of them, Superman and Wonder Woman can't handle it, they need a whole team, but, like, the whole team needs them also. And so it works out great. So they are great characters. It's just they're too good.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. It's not that I hate him.
You hate him? I heard him. You hate him.
I think that, like Magneto was right, I think Luthor's right.
Oh, yeah.
I think that it's a detriment to human potential, that everyone's going to have, always looking up to the sky for a flying angel to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And what if he's not on the side of angels?
Yeah.
What if he doesn't share our views?
Yeah.
What if the next Superman is Zod? And which ends up happening in the War of Kryptonians, when they start coming down and start hammering the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways Luthor's right. Luthor's an egotistical, murderous bastard, but he's sort of right in that sense that we need to be aware of how bad this situation can turn on us.
Yeah.
And then plus Superman's too much of a goody-goody.
And I guess I want to mention that to make it more real, imagine if there was a real Superman, and how, imagine if somebody who has emotional and psychological issues, and they're, heaven forbid, but contemplating suicide, and they're going to go to the top building. It's like, I'm going to jump off the top of this building. If Superman saves me, then I guess I deserve to live. Especially if he doesn't, I'm going to die. And I can imagine that happening in real life. And so people, just with the zeitgeist of knowing Superman and that he's so fast and he always saves Lois Lane, he always catches Lois Lane, so clearly she's special.
Yep.
And so it could actually start causing issues.
Well, I'm going to give out spoilers for the Reign of Superman since I said that. There's a scene where Hank Henshaw believes, because his wife is in the thing, they get hit by a meteor. He's like, "Don't worry, Superman will save us," and he doesn't make any effort to kind of save anyone or pull any. Superman didn't save us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's total reliance, which is odd.
Yeah.
And plus, it's a weapon that's unchecked.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that Batman kind of does right, because there's plenty of people in Gotham that believes Batman does not exist.
Mm.
The villains and henchmen believe and know he exists, but the civilian population, some of them, it's just oh, this is conspiracy or propaganda, to make bad people scared. There's no real Batman.
Well, it's two sides of the same coin. Justice come from both the light and the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
But our Batman video you should watch. We touched on that.
It was a really good video.
Yeah,
Batman
it
has
was
a
almost
lot
two
of good
hours.
villains.
Yeah, he does. We will be doing a Superman video on villains here in a bit. Anything you want to talk any more about the Man of Steel?
I keep on extending it. I think could always save stuff for later.
All right. Well, I would like to make a few recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
The original Max Fleischer cartoons. They
Sure.
were the guy that did Popeye. They're wonderful. They're very simple. Superman's very ham-fisted.
Yeah.
Like punch the bad guy. He doesn't really say too much.
Yeah.
But they are a wonderful cartoon set. The animation it was $100,000 a cartoon at that point because they didn't want to make them. But the money, you could see where the money went, and this is like the 30s, 40s where animation wasn't, it was beautiful animation. So I recommend that. Superman the Animated Series, of course, I will always recommend. Justice League, of course.
Yeah, All-Star Superman, the comic,
Ooh.
or even the
Yes, of course.
the movie. Was it a movie or a 6-part?
No, it was actually a cartoon movie.
Yeah,
Cartoon, and the comic was good too.
yeah. I recommend the comic because the movie left a few things out. It's not.
Well, yeah,
that
they have to.
important,
They have to.
But
you know what I mean?
but the comic has just a little bit more.
Of course. Superman in Final Frontier is pretty good. Of course, the original Superman movie is Christopher Reeve. Smallville, I mostly watch for Lex Luthor. I'm not gonna. I'll do a Lex Luthor video later, and I'll go sing his praises. We're just doing Superman. Of course, Lois and Clark.
Yeah,
decent Superman there.
And other places you could check out Superman is Crisis on Infinite Earths, Justice League. Where there's these major events, and they need a Superman.
The Batman Superman comics, I also recommend those. They've been on for a few years. Wonderful mix. It really told cohesive stories. The cartoons are based off of them. Public Enemies and
Public Enemy was a great
one. And the one where Lex Luthor becomes president.
Yes,
I highly recommend all that. The new movies, if you like them, they're kind of wishy-washy for me.
Yeah,
but of course, Superman's a timeless character.
Death of Superman,
and Reign of Superman, the new ones. Check out DC and subscribe to that. Really worth watching. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to read any Golden Age Superman, that is interesting stuff.
Superboy and the Legion.
Okay.
It only went on for 2 seasons, but it was really good because Superboy is part of the Legion.
Yeah.
So those are my recommendations to watch.
Well, it was a comic book series too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was giving them some movies, cartoons, so because people don't read now, it's not cool. But do you have anything that you'd like to recommend? Anything else?
It's just keep on being more of a longer list.
Of course.
For us saying like, oh, we don't like Superman that much. Now here's all these great things with Superman.
Well, because he's necessary to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Every Dragon Ball Z has a Goku. We have our Superman.
Yeah. And
whether you love him or hate him.
They're not always the most engaging character, but they're the face.
Yep. Some people love Batman. Some people love Superman.
And actually, interesting that once again mentioning Dragon Ball Z. So in the English dub of Dragon Ball Z, that the writers tweaked his Goku's words just a little bit. Like the main idea was accurate, but they tweaked it to make him more of a Superman character where he was more righteous.
Yeah,
which is not the intention. Goku's actually a very selfish character. He's a good person, but he's selfish. He's only really interested in fighting.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah, and so and just like little tweaks to words, can change a character a lot. And I guess since I mentioned that, the same thing happens with My Hero Academia. I don't know if you're watching that at all.
No.
But the main character in that, once again, it's just slight tweaks in the verbiage and words where it's, in the Japanese version, it makes it seem like he's just more being pushed along with this ideology where, he wasn't born with powers and it's just like, oh, it can't be helped. While in the English version, it's just like, I will still be great, more attitude. But it's just from slight tweaks of words. So, yeah, just littlest things can make a mountain of difference.
Yes, it does. And the reason people like Superman, he's the pillar. He's the line that people draw when it comes to comics.
truth, justice, and the American way.
I tend to think of him as the humane way. I don't think of him as just a citizen of America. I think of him as a citizen of the world.
Yes. And that's why he gets to use his heat vision to mess with people's minds and stuff like that.
They make fun of that too.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, this was our Superman retrospective. Comic Outlaw, of course, Magnus.
Mm-hmm.
And catch you all on the flip side. See you later, and keep flying that banner, y'all.
Later.
Yep.